G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is an Expansive Kalashnikov. Right now it is configured into AK-47 form, but it can be so much more. This is a weapon that has been ported from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, complete with custom sounds and reload animations befitting of any good quality Call of Duty port. Now, if you cast your minds back to the AKM complex, that one's by Nova Finch, where you could make the AK a very robust and modular platform. There's some elements here that in that mod that I'm seeing here, they're not executed to as high of a standard, but it's there. So basically you can turn this into whatever model AK that you can see listed here. So you got the Type 56, that's your Chinese version. You can't mount optics onto that one. Not very good. AKM, that's a more modernized version of your heavy caliber AK. AK-74 was your infantry standard lighter caliber version that they used around the year 1974, and even more moderner AKs in the AK-103 for, you know, the year 103. No, just kidding. And there's also an RPK, that's your robuster, tougher machine gun thing, designed to fire many rounds very fast, and I mean, the heat of that is more handled in the barrel, but yeah, it's going to be slightly stronger. These really, they require the science perk to switch around in some of these materials as well, but it's the same gun anyway. It's probably the same internals, and you're just changing the shell of it, I suppose, because that's the thing about the AK. Like, it's always the same for like the 80 years that it's been around. It's barely changed a bit because, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this thing is like never broken, ever. You don't have to clean this thing out. It'll still fire from Monday to Sunday all day, no problems. Pour vodka down the barrel. That'll clear up the rust pretty well, I think, and I think the rifle would quite enjoy it. Now, we're going to make this thing, I don't know, AKM, why not? And you'll see that it's still listed as an AK-47 in this thing. So, unlike the Nova Finch mod, Warfighter doesn't actually change the title or reflect the true name of what receiver we've attached here. So, that's a little bit of a shame, but that's a lot of keyword finagling you got to do to get that to work properly, which would, you know, be a pain in the ass, I suppose. So, maybe that was the reason they didn't do it, but the attention to detail quite isn't there, unfortunately. Also, if you're using a lighter caliber AK-74, we're still using the 7.62 rounds, so is that supposed to happen? Who knows? Moving on, we've got a legendary effect provided by Legendary Modification. Nope. And don't you worry, I'm going to be using a standard AK-47 with no attachments that are going to make it look different. So, yeah, right now this is going to probably end up a very cursed looking rifle, but we're going to use the standard AK, so don't you worry. Now, go over to stocks. There's some stocks here that look different. There's some, that's a RPK stock. Sorry, I saw it and then I read it had RPK. So you already know that watching from home. There's also this one, which I believe supposed to be like an AK-12 stock, which looks flimsy and cheap, and they don't have the production means to make these actually good like our Western weapons over here. Like, would you rather have an AK-47 or a Scar H in the apocalypse? There's your comment question of the day. Leave your thoughts down below while I decide what scope to use. That's a foldable stock, probably good to use with a shorter barreled version of the AK. We'll keep that in mind for our AK-74U that I'm going to try to make with this thing. But if we go all the way down here, there's some stocks that require gun nut rank 3, which would believe, I think they're superior if I've got that. There's also a tactical stock. That's the same one. That's an RPK stock again, but more tactical, because it's got the sling attachment there. Who knows? We'll throw that one on, and we'll move on to the barrels. Now, if you want the highest range of this thing, which means it's going to be the most consistent over range and in VAT over basically distance where you can render, there's this barrel down here, 23-inch RPK barrel, complete with a bipod as well. There's a bipod attachment you can attach to this, but this one has it inbuilt. This one gives you 191 range, which is actually the highest, and we've gone straight down to ammos. We'll get to those a little bit later, but we'll continue with magazines. So we've got an old magazine. It's difficult to use. We can have it standard. That makes it better. Requires gun nut rank 1 to do that. There's also a slab-sided one. Slightly different. There's also 40-round magazines, and you'll notice when there's the 7.62 rounds contrasted with the 5.45 rounds, the damage is the same despite the 7.62 being a heavy caliber, and the range is the same despite them being heavier bullets with a higher energy or, I guess, grainage behind it to make it fire harder. So I don't know whether that's a balancing thing or if it's just supposed to be just a generic magazine attachment thing. But it does require you to get different ammo types, which are all proprietary to this mod. You can't use those rounds in anywhere else. You have to craft them on a chemistry workbench. This is his drum here. He uses the 7.62s. 75 round drum mag, we'll throw that on. I feel like that's a good choice for lots of sustained fire. We've got the barrel designed for holding that kind of heat, so I think we'll be fine there. Now, how you upgrade the damage, you can't do it with receivers, so you have to do it with using different rounds, which don't actually change the different rounds that you actually need to shoot. This is just like a extraneous extra legendary effect. There's cryo rounds. Hollow point will give you the most damage. There's also depleted uranium, which gives you a little bit of flavor. Radiation damage, completely worthless against anyone who is immune to radiation, so basically anyone who's not a human. Like, since apply to that because I think they're supposed to be immune to radiation. Or perhaps some members of Children of Adam who are unaffected by radiation might take that. But I think the bullets will do a good job on them. They're generally unarmored. Now, you can throw on some muzzles, including suppressors, compensators. There's also muzzle brakes here for recoil control. I'm going to go straight through for a suppressor. This monolithic one, which you can barely see. We'll just tilt the weapon around. There it is. It's a big PBS suppressor. We've seen that before. I think it's a PBS 4 model, actually. So that'll give us a little bit of extra range, thanks to extra barrel length, and even more damage through Ace Operator. Now, there's a rail attachment. It's on the side here. Would you call that a rail attachment? Well, that's what it is. You can have a laser sight or a flashlight if you feel like it. No combinations of both. Let's go for a hip shot L20. Nice. And this lower rail here, you can actually fold that bipod down, but if you don't do anything, you can keep that bipod and throw in a grip instead, which will change the bottom of this handguard to a more tactical Picatinny rail version of that. And there's also an option for a grenade launcher, which if you do apply that, it'll take your bipod off, which is actually some really cool attention to detail. I was expecting the bipod to still be there, and the way that function is quite interesting because it actually uses the grenade slot in your inventory, which means it's going to take a while to fire those grenades because when you hit the grenades, you'll load it and then fire. But it's a very seamless system where you don't have to use this little extra aid thing to switch over between the things, which was prone to making the weapons bugged. And you can also hold multiple of these at a time and use the grenade launcher if you've got one attached. Hopefully, I think. We'll have to see how that one goes. Do we throw a grenade launcher on this one? No, let's just throw a grip on this one. We've got plenty of options for grenade launchers later on. We'll go for a Ranger foregrip there, but a lot of these are vertical based, and I'm guessing they'll be changing your animations as you go along as well. That one's got even a handguard part to it as well, so you don't ram your fingers into like a hip-high brick wall or something. Also an extraneous damage modifier here if you feel like it isn't quite doing it for you, but I think with 301 damage, I think it is quite good. And of course, if you want to attach sights to this thing, you got to get this god ugly thing on the top. There's it's a Viper reflex sight. That's Russian, so it suits the weapon, but yeah, they don't have Picatinny rails on the top of these things. I think the AK-12 model had those by default, but they're all cheap and flimsy, and the AK-74 was just a better weapon all round. So it says the gun expert on YouTube that I decided to listen to that one time. But to get this AK mount on the side, you can throw on scopes, 3x optics as well. That would be good for sniping. There's also versions down here, 2.5, any long scopes, 4x, that's getting up there. I suppose that might be the longest. We might have to get a sniper version of this one. We'll see how it goes for a semi-auto, but actually, can I even make this thing semi-auto? I don't think I can. Well, there you go, that sucks. Next, we've got the paints. You can desert, mudslide, tactical black is nice. This one's stealth status, so we'll make it tactical black, but yeah, we'll use standard for our standard AK-47, but there's also digital and more foresty, woodland sort of camos about it, and I think that pretty much does everything. There's also grips. You can change the grip. If you scroll down, you've got that super AK-12 looking ergonomic thing, which sits way back. I don't think that would cause issues with handling or comfort of the weapon. That's fine. I think that's all for real this time. So plenty of attachments to play around with, plenty of modularity, plenty of options. Endless fun to play with. Good job, Warfighter. I'm going to make one of each type. Hopefully we'll find different roles for them. and we'll see how we go. Oh, wait, before I shoot stuff, here's how you craft them. You go to your chemistry workbench, find weapon AK-47. You'll find these grenades. You can make them for free. So if you want to cheese this, we can just do nothing but fire 40 mic nuclear grenades all video. But let's not do that. There's also options for ammo here. 8 lead and nothing else creates 30 of the 5.45 rounds. The same thing happens with the 7.62 rounds, despite them needing more lead because they're heavier bullets. I don't know, maybe there's it's easy to sort out offcuts of lead using this. I don't know what's going on there. And here's how you craft the weapons. They're all in their preset forms here. So there's an AK-74. That's going to be an AK-74 in name forever. AK-103. There's a 47 and an AKM. There's also extra versions. There's a Golden Dragon, Pink Perforator, Resonant. That's an energy weapon. See, it's chambering the fusion cells. And there's the Chinese cheap piece of shit Type 56, which only gives me 48 damage compared to... Wait, no, that's normal. Don't worry. That's all of the damage without the perks applied because it's not on a weapons workbench, I think. And here's a result of what I got crafted. So that's the AK-74. The 103 looks like that. That's the 47. We've already seen that one. That's the one I made. Golden Dragon. My goodness, that's garish. This one's Resonant. That's the energy weapon. It's got a couple of cool batteries and stuff on it. This is Pink Perforator. It's hideous. And there's your AKM and Type 56. Looks like the variants that you find. Oh, it's got the bayonet that's folded backwards. Ooh, might want to fold that out before you use it. The last thing you want to grab onto for a foregrip is a sharper bayonet, don't you think? But that's kind of cool. I like this. Good attention to detail. If you showed that to me, I would guess that's a Chinese AK because it looks a little bit off. But yeah, nice. Good job. Alright, so we're finally here at the Immersive Gunners Plaza, and I've got a confession to make. I don't think I've made a single good-looking AK. Yeah, this thing, at least in first person, looks pretty good as we try to take out these spindly little bastards before they start aggroing all the gunners. But one look in third person, it's like... Oh no, what have I done? Yuck. This is sniper status version. You see all those Picatinny rails you see over it? Unfortunately, you can't attach anything to those. It's still got the laser sight on the side there, which doesn't appear to be on. There it is. It's on now. That's cool. But it's got the scope, which no scope sway, which is nice. That might be the bipod doing that. Currently attached to nothing, but what have you. But it's a standard TV scope. Unfortunately, we're not firing with a rifleman semi-auto receiver, so we're not going to get knockdowns, but the recoil on this thing, pretty easy to control. Next, we've got the RPK with a drum magazine. Tactical reload is there, so I don't have to pull the charging handle on a tactical reload, a less than empty, or more than empty reload. This is also bolstered by a grenade launcher on the front, which appears to be using a foregrip animation in third person, but so, yeah, whatever, that's fine. And in function, this is what you do. You just hold the grenade button down like usual, and you gotta go through this admittedly pretty slow animation. These grenades are free though, so, you know, what are you gonna complain about there? It's pretty much free damage with an explosive radius. Next, this is the small AK. This is actually technically an AKM, but I've made it a short barrel skeleton stock with a magazine which is 30 rounds, and it's got the, I think it's a PKA, holographic PKO, something like that. But for some reason, they've decided to make this a scope, like a 2-time scope, a little bit like your Halo Magnum, I suppose. But for some reason, the holographic is a scope. It's not like that in real life, but interesting design choice. Next, this is the best one I made so far. This is just a standard AK-47 with nothing happening to make it different. Standard iron sights. Yeah, you get the idea. Reload like this. Number 6 is the golden version. This one is gold. It's also got a bayonet, and it looks garish, but, you know, in close quarters, I don't think anything's going to stand up to me. I've got a big drum magazine to keep for firing all day. Next, we've got the pink abomination that I crafted. Now, interestingly, this thing is listed on its weapon card as explosive. You see that? But that happened when I put the incendiary thing on, and doesn't look like explosive nor incendiary is actually happening. We'll have to test whether we actually ignite targets if we shoot something with this. That's a strong if, by the way. An emphasis on if. And lastly, we've got Resonant, not to be confused with Resident. So this is a full tactical black energy version of this thing. It fires Gauss rifle projectiles with the explosions, which might do damage to the user. Yes, look out for that. But yeah, it's a good way to crowd control. And you're using fusion cells, a very easy and easy to get ammo source, rather than these rounds, which I'm already pretty low. 30 rounds per 8 lead is not all that much, but we'll see how we go. And I think, first of all, we'll just sit up in the sniping spot like usual and go over to our scope thing, make sure we've got a full magazine, and we will begin. A lot of vibration happening, but the weapon is not being pulled in a specific direction, so as long as I'm fairly on target, I feel like the volume of fire on this thing is going to allow me to get all the hits that I need. Let's go over to something less scopy, a reflex sight version. I can't really use this to snipe as much. I'll thread the needle there between those two security bollards. I think you get the idea. Let's move over to the AK, so the RPK. This one is less subtle, of course, in more ways than one. No suppressor, which means no sneak criticals, except they still haven't found me. Let's just step out into the light, and we'll use the grenades. Take this. And you can see how it's a little bit awkward using these in combat. You'd much rather just have like a throwing grenade because, well, you don't have to wait a while for this thing to happen. Now, I wonder if you could get that happening the other way around, where you just fire the thing and then you got to sit through a reload animation before you're ready to fire again. That might be an interesting way of doing it, but how you switch grenades is doing this. So, all of these grenades listed. Now I've loaded the plasma grenades in. I suppose you can't really do it the other way, because if you want to load the grenades in, the game's got to remember that you've got a frag grenade loaded. If you've switched over to plasma grenades, then one frag grenade, then the rest of them will be plasma grenades, which is some serious script extender shit that you'd have to do to accomplish that. So maybe the system as it is how it's going to be and how it should be. Anyways, we'll add some nuclear fire to this thing. Very nice. Oh, complete with a little bit of knockdown as well. We'll finish him, and we'll go over to this AK. Now, I'm fairly certain this thing will be fairly accurate. I might have to tap fire a little bit to make sure the recoil doesn't get away from me. Probably a good idea to get into a little bit of cover as I'm going along as well. But yeah, I've got a big old muzzle brake on this thing as well, so this thing is doing pretty good to keep itself in the game. The 30-round magazine is biting me a little bit, and my mouse is pretty much doing the same, as I do a little bit of percussive maintenance, a little bit of persuasion to say, hey, don't fuck up on me. Anyways, we'll keep going. I think it's AK-47 time. Whoops, wrong one. Never mind. We'll keep the gold one. Yeah, I'd be. Oh, they threw a grenade near their own dude. I'm not sure if I shot that grenade and explode or just happened to die like that. Anyways, so that 75-round magazine torn through a lot of gunners quite easily there, and I don't think there's any problems in terms of damage. This is a very, very strong weapon, so there's not much I can say there. The recoil on this thing, although it can be high, you can tame it with specific muzzle attachments or careful tap firing. So again, nothing to complain about there at all. I think everything works in the gameplay perspective of it. It's strong, it's punchy, it feels good to use, it sounds good. Obviously courteous of the sound designers over at Activision or whatever fucking denomination of Call of Duty made this particular variant of Modern Warfare. But I think in all things, it just lacks a little bit of polish. Like making the weapon's name change depending on which version. Wow, I just got my ass eaten by that. Awesome, we're really pissed off now that we've killed that gunner. And we haven't even used everything yet. Yes, hello, Gina, I know you're there. I know you're there, Gina. She wants attention. But, I hope the mic picked that up. I'm not talking to anything. Oh, okay, here's the tactical animation mod. I'll press, nice. I think it's I or T or something. We can utilize cover like NPCs. Isn't that nice? So we can sort of peek around a corner, and you can also peek from that way. And okay, we've skipped the reload. Anyways, eat AK-47. Yeah, just tweaking the keywords, I think, would just complete this mod to make it feel a little bit more polished, you know? That might be the biggest criticism I've got, is it just a little bit lacking. Anyways, oh, look, they're on fire. This is probably the only time I'm going to be using this particular variant, because it's a shorter barrel and it's got no stock, so the recoil's all over the place. But we're back to normal, where it's not playing combat music. Now, I realize I haven't used this thing in VATS that much, which means I don't have to crutch with criticals to get damage done, which might tell you that the weapon is pretty strong. Anyways, here's Resonant. Getting Gauss minigun vibes out of that, because all of that explosion damage was hitting for not a lot of damage. Anyways, let's move on to Swan. He's right down the road here. I'll skip the walking. So I think we can get knockdowns utilizing our nuclear grenade. So we'll send one his way. Hopefully that hits him. Total whiffer. We'll try again. Maybe a little bit lower this time. Perfect, that's him knocked down, and now we can get started shooting him with rounds from back here, which is great news. It's doing a lot of damage. We're getting probably a lot of penalties from this thing not being in its optimal range, but obviously you get through your AP pretty quickly using a scoped automatic version like that. I think this might be the first time where I've killed Swan before the Suicider showed up, but yeah, that's pretty good. Did pretty much exactly what we wanted it to, but I think we can make it a little bit more fair. We can make it a little bit better than that. But yes, you can use this thing with classic holstered weapons. It all seems to work pretty well. I think the scope was missing on one of these, so not all of the models have the right things ticked to actually make it work, but it's mostly there. It's pretty good. And you know what? Let's use this Gauss version more. We'll see how it goes. All right, perhaps now is the time to utilize it in VATS. Yes. All right. Well, yeah, it's pretty good. We'll add some criticals to add insult to injury, and we're off to a pretty good start here. Now, I don't think this thing is suppressed, but we can bounce damage all around the little buggies. Nope, that is definitely not suppressed. We've got 2 criticals ready to go. He is now mutated, and we can get started on him for real. Now, having all of those extra explosions is pretty handy, because that's extra chance for him to stagger, because we're technically hitting twice, once with the bullet and twice with the explosion. But now that he's out, let's use something different. Maybe we'll go over to the standard AK. Yes, this one. Unfortunately, it hasn't got the classic Modern Warfare reload where you just toss the magazine off the side of the screen and still keep the bullets anyway, because it's a shooter from that era. They don't make them quite as crazy as they used to, and your whole screen would sway with the motion of the reload as well. It was iconic. Anyway, so that was another time in Nerd Rage for absolutely no reason. The job is done though, so that's nice. Probably have a stim pack. Yeah, feeling better now? You bet. Smile on your face. We're ready to go for another monster. All right, I think it's time to start asking the big questions. So what does this AK mod have to offer that other AK mods don't have? And I think the only thing that is like fairly unique and new that I've sort of discovered or thought about with this mod is its ability of, I mean, its grenade launcher functionality. I don't think I've seen that before. It's really quite interesting. I quite like it, actually, and that was a 1-mag slaughter. Yes, please. That's not the only monster we're going to take out, though. I think Ghoulish, there was a simp ghoul in there that decided it was going to be friends, but no, you don't make friends with a ghoul. That's a bad idea. And so, other than the overpowered damage and the grenade launcher, what does this mod have to offer? A lot of fun, I suppose. It's really fun to use. It's great. It's a high quality weapon mod, but you look at the size of the mod, which I haven't spoken about yet, and I think that the shooting's out of sync here. We're firing way faster than what the guns. Maybe that's why the DPS is so high, because I'm firing way faster than what the game is supposed to do. But again, that might just be to not poor balancing or anything, just a little bit of polish needed to make this thing work. I'm gonna say it now, this is overpowered because we just crushed everything there really easy. But Yeah, so other than the grenade launcher functionality and possibly unbalanced nature of this thing, it's strong, but it's fun to use, you know? It feels good. What does it give ya? The grenade launcher, that's it. So, I don't know, maybe if you are a big fan of this thing in Call of Duty, you might gravitate towards this more, or if you want a more balanced and polished approach, you probably want to check out the AKM complex. But I think both mods in their own right are very well made and have their uses, but I think as a comparison I'd back the AKM complex over this thing, just because I think that its concept's a little bit well, it was more fresh. This is kind of derivative. Whether that was the intention or not, I'm not sure, but we've sort of seen this sort of modular AK system before. I think it's just executed better for the complex mod, and you don't have the COD sort of thing attached to it, so you could argue for lore friendliness for the AKM complex ones. But I don't know, that's up to you though, whether you want to download this or not. I would recommend it. It's a good weapon mod. Check it out if you want. Link will be in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, guys.